You are listening to the Keep the Weight Off podcast with Dr. Angela, episode number 15.
Welcome to the Keep the Weight Off podcast, where we bust all the dieting myths and discover not just how to lose weight, but more importantly, how to keep it off. We go way beyond the food, and we use science and psychology to give you strategies that work. And now your host, Dr. Angela Zechmann.
So, hey everybody, and welcome back to the podcast. Marshall and I are here today, and you know what? We've been hearing a lot of people who the pandemic, they've gotten their vaccines and they're ready to travel. Like, it seems like, doesn't it seem to you like every other person in the country off on a trip?
Well, first of all, I can't believe we're on episode number 15.
Oh, yeah, I know. It's pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we are.
Right.
So, so lots of people are traveling, and I am a little bit jealous, I have to admit, because I don't have any specific travel plans, but you do though, don't you?
I do. I have travel plans for the first time, probably like ever, going out of the country. I've never been out of the country.
You're leaving the country.
We're leaving the country. We're going to Mexico in July.
Oh, how fun.
Oh, yeah. God. So quite a bit different than previous travel plans, but I'm glad that we're talking about the subject tonight because I'd like to go in with like a mindful plan.
Exactly.
And that's what we're going to be talking about.
We are. We're going to talk about how to be a boss, how to do vacations like a boss.
Yes.
How to travel like a boss.
Mm-hmm.
So here's what I hear a lot from people when they come back from their vacations. They will kind of be a little bit ashamed and they will say, oh my gosh, I was doing so well before I went on my trip. And, it might be a trip out of town for business too. It doesn't necessarily have to be a vacation, but
right.
I think generally speaking, people get in more trouble when they're on a vacation than when they're on business trips. Not always, but there's something that happens in the brain when you're on vacation, and it's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to let loose. I'm going to, it's just a whole, like,
your brain is like in total party mode the minute that, you get out of the sight of the normal routine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, or, maybe they're visiting family and they end up going back to their old eating habits that they used to do with family, or maybe there's some sort of celebration like a wedding or a graduation or something. So there's some sort of splurge meal or food or something, and they just come back and they have a really hard time getting back on track, and then they feel guilty. So here's what happened to me one time, and I tell all of my patients this story because it's actually pretty funny. I went on vacation. I went on a girls' trip to Hawaii, and we were going from Seattle to, I don't know, Maui or something, maybe Kauai. I can't remember. But we were on Alaska Air. And at that point in time, they don't do this anymore because of the pandemic for sure. But they were giving out free Mai Tais on the plane. Now think about what a Mai Tai is. It's sugar and alcohol, right? Together. Okay. So I'm like, yeah, sure. I'm on vacay. I'm with the girls. I'll have a Mai Tai. So I have a Mai Tai, and then they come around again and offer us a second free Mai Tai. So I'm kind of a lightweight. So by the time I get off the flight, I'm a little bit loopy. And from then on, so then we went out for dinner, and then we probably had another, like I might have ordered another Mai Tai at dinner because it had been a few hours since then. And then of course we had to have dessert. And then I woke up the next morning and I was like, I had a sugar and alcohol hangover because sugar and alcohol get metabolized exactly the same way in the liver. So the hangover byproducts are the same. And I felt like crap. And I was like, oh man, I shouldn't have done that. I was feeling bad about it. But the day went on and I started feeling better as I got hydrated again. And then that night we're out to dinner again. And then, okay, sure. Yeah, I'll have another Mai Tai and a dessert. And so every single day of this vacation was Angela making a resolution in the morning when she's having, her hangover, that she's not going to do that. And then every night back into vacation mode. And by the time I came home, I felt horrible. And I think I gained like 5 pounds, something like that,
Oh,
in a week.
yeah,
In a
it's
week.
easy to do.
Well, some of it's not fat, but I just felt terrible. So has anything like that ever happened to you?
Yeah, I have kind of a similar experience with vacation, but I think you remember this. So I was pretty new after I had done, and it was like the first couple months that I did, the sugar and flour detox, and
Yeah.
everything was going so great.
Yeah.
And then we decided to go to an amusement park. It was like during Thanksgiving time this
Oh,
last year. So we went to
okay.
this amusement park, and of course, what kind of food is at an amusement park?
No kidding.
All the kinds of candy and pizzas and, cotton candy and all this kind of stuff. And I thought, oh, okay, I could be doing so much worse because, really any other time in the past, I would have just gone for it and I would just ate whatever, ate my way through the whole trip, right?
Right.
And then this time I thought, okay, so I'm going to only have this caramel popcorn. There was this little like train excursion that you go on. And so I got this big bag of kettle corn and I
Yeah.
thought, okay, that's like the least damaging out of all the stuff I could eat, right?
Right.
And it kind of was. I didn't eat a whole lot of it. I didn't even realize what was going to happen later. So when I got back from vacation, that's when I was doing those Facebook live videos where I was like, oh, I'm in a really crappy place. I'm just
Oh,
craving donuts now. And what
yeah.
happened is it just sent me into this like constant craving of carbs again and sugar, mostly sugar. I
Oh,
mean, so it took me about 3 weeks to overcome that. And I can't say that it wasn't a rocky road out of there because it was, I just couldn't get my mojo back. But
yeah.
that's why on this vacation, I definitely want to have a plan because that's what happened is I didn't have a plan. I
Mm,
just I just kept telling myself, well, you could have done so much worse,
yeah. Yeah.
and really it wasn't, that didn't help me. That just
Mm,
gave me an excuse.
mm,
And so, yeah, so great subject.
yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think a lot of people struggle like this. We hear it all the time. We really do. And
Yeah,
you
we
can imagine,
do.
Marshall, like if you hadn't been in touch with us, like you might
Right.
have given up after that vacation. That happens a lot, really.
Hmm.
And then people will come back, months and months and months later and say,
Right.
I got off track on a vacation and I didn't know how to get myself back on track and I felt terrible. And so this is just one of these things that I just want everybody to realize. Like what I did was I came up with a plan because I didn't want to come back from a vacation feeling like I'd felt after that vacation again.
Yeah,
And
me
so
too.
and so my plan was to and this has been my plan ever since. My plan is to eat really good, wholesome, nutritious food for most of the vacation. Like, treat it like I would treat any other day. And I use the vacation as an opportunity not to eat my way through it, but to find out more about the culture, to just enjoy downtime, to get massages. Like, if it's a beach vacation, to just lay in the sun. Like, to me, the vacation is no longer about the food. Although, if there
Right.
is some special restaurant or, like maybe you're in New Orleans and you want to try something specific from New Orleans, or maybe you're in France. Nobody's going to France right now, but eventually, and you want to try like some sort of special French pastry, something like that. I save it for the last night. Or if it's a longer vacation, I save it for the last 2 nights. Now, why do you suppose I do that? Any idea, Marshall?
So that you don't start out the vacation with cravings.
Exactly, exactly. Because what had happened to me on the plane was those Mai Tais just sent my brain spinning, craving sugar and alcohol. And it would have been way too hard to get myself back on track during the vacation. So what I'm doing when I do my vacations now is I'm keeping my brain's, that dopamine center in the brain that likes to use any excuse whatsoever to get you to eat something to give it its hit, right? you know,
Yeah, yeah.
and you're so so I'm just telling that center, no, we're going to have a splurge at the end, and then we're going to get right back on track.
That
So
is a
the
fantastic
third
idea.
meal comes at the end of the trip. So it's not a whole week of debauchery. It's at the end of the trip. And then on my way home from the airport, or if I'm in a car, I just stop at a grocery store and get good, healthy, nourishing, nutritious food so that I don't wake up the next morning with nothing in the house.
Mm.
That's the other thing that happens to people. They're like, well, I got home from my vacation. I'm like, have you gone grocery shopping yet? And they were like, no. And I'm like, that's the first thing you
Oh,
got to do.
yeah.
You got to get your food on the way back from your trip so that you don't come home to a house that's only got, like crap food in it, like stuff that's stuck in the freezer or whatever, unless you plan ahead and, put stuff in the freezer ahead of time. So, but I don't know. It's just, to me, it's worked really, really well because I've never, again, had a vacation where I never feel deprived because I always know I have a splurge meal at the end, and I never let my brain get totally and crazily out of whack. And
Yeah.
it works really well for me. So that would be my recommendation for all of those of you who are traveling, is to just have a splurge meal at the end. Now, the question always is, okay, well, yeah, but what if I'm flying, and plain food is terrible. Now, what I will say is I have been on a few flights since the pandemic started, and they aren't really serving food on flights. Yeah. so, so, I mean, they might come through with some granola bars or snack bars or cookies or something, but it's plain food is not good food. So what I always do is I pack nuts and protein bars. I don't generally like to eat processed food, but protein bars on a trip are going to save your butt. So, and the
Right.
ones I always recommend are probably the best ones we found, unless you found something else, Marshall. The best ones we found are the Quest bars because they're
Right.
really high in fiber and they're really good protein, and they're low in carbs, and they're filling, and they taste good.
Yeah.
And we're not getting sponsored by Quest or anything like that, guys. But those are the ones that I found that are the best. There might be other ones as well, but nuts, packages of nuts and protein bars, and you could bring some deviled eggs or something to eat on the plane as well if you wanted to do that. So sometimes I do that. Sometimes I just go to a restaurant at the airport and just order like our airport in Seattle has a really nice restaurant called Evergreens, and they sell salads. They're beautiful
That's
salads,
awesome.
and they'll put anything in them for you. And they mix them all up right there, and you can just carry it on the plane with you and eat it on the plane. So,
So, if I think I'm hearing you correctly, I think what you're saying is have a plan.
mm-hmm.
I'm going to do some research ahead of time because
Yep.
we're going to an all inclusive. So, I'm going to ask the question that's probably not just on my mind, but on everybody's mind.
Yeah.
What about the booze?
Oh,
So,
what
because
about the
drinking is a thing on vacation and we
yeah.
all do it, right? Or we all
Mhm.
want to, whatever.
Mhm.
So, do you have a suggestion for like what is the safest or what is the most low calorie or what is your plan for that? Because I mean, I know we're getting a plan for food, but
Mhm.
honestly, I think alcohol goes right in there with vacations.
Yeah, I
So,
agree.
what do
Well,
you
and
think?
remember that's what got me in trouble was the
Right,
mic on the plane, the
right.
alcohol. Yeah, because you get a
So,
little
what
bit
do you think?
lucky, and then you can't make good decisions, right?
Yeah, but I mean,
So,
like people are gonna want to have a couple drinks. Like, so what is like a safer plan
mhm.
than abstinence? Because I'm sure that abstinence is the best way, of course. But
Yeah.
what if you're on vacation, you want to have a couple drinks or whatever? What do you think?
Mhm. Yeah, so a glass of red wine is probably just fine. 2 or 3 glasses of red wine will put you in that sort of, "I don't care what I eat" state, and then
All
you'll end
right.
up overeating. Alcohol gets metabolized and goes straight to the liver and turns to fat. And
Yeah.
so that really cut back on my alcohol usage when I heard that at a conference. That was very interesting.
All
Uh,
right.
like you're going to be going down to Mexico, and so you might not want red wine. Well, white wine has more carbs in it and more sugar in it. So another option might be like a vodka with club soda, and then put a little splash of have them put a little splash of cranberry in it and some lime. That's a trick I
Yeah.
learned from one of my patients, and it looks really elegant, and people always ask, "What are you drinking?" No, what I mean is you can alternate that with one with the vodka and one without the vodka, and you can keep yourself well hydrated too.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
you know, say
Perfect.
if they say, "Hey, would you like another drink?" You say, "Yeah, just leave the vodka out this time."
Yeah, my personal opinion is don't drink booze with sugary sodas.
No. Mm-mm.
Bad choice.
Yeah, yeah. I've once in a while I've done like a rum with a Diet Coke and some lime in it. That's kind of a nice one if
Oh,
you're in the tropics and it's
all
hot.
right.
That's a nice one. But rum has a little bit more sugar in it than something like vodka or gin, some of the more clear ones.
Right.
But it's a vacation, so once in a while, a little bit should be fine. You just don't want to get yourself so toasted that you can't make good decisions, right? And I'm probably dating myself when I use
That's
that.
always the goal.
Well, that's just it. It's like vacay. I'm on vacay. I want to let loose. Yay.
It's so hard. I know it is so hard going in on vacation because that was like the first thing that I think about is like, what can I eat and
Mm-hmm.
what can I drink? Because you want to let loose. And yeah, that's just, it doesn't pay off in the end. It's never worth it. And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to try something completely different and
Yeah.
have like a plan and come out
Mm-hmm.
on the other side feeling
Mm-hmm.
like a success story.
Yeah. That's awesome. So you're going to be in an all inclusive. So you're
Yeah,
going
it's
to go
all
in.
inclusive. There's like
So you're going
9
to go.
restaurants.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's
Yeah.
cool. So it'll be easy for you to get like a really good protein breakfast.
Tons of good food. Yeah, really healthy food.
Sometimes those places will actually make you omelets. They'll have like an omelet stand or whatever, and they'll
Yes.
make an omelet to your specifications. So you could like have a
Right.
different omelet every day. For
Right.
those of you who are like traveling you're staying in hotels with continental breakfast, you have to be super careful
Yeah.
because continental breakfast generally means, pastries and muffins
Yep.
and bagels and cereal boxes and stuff like that. And you don't want to eat that stuff. Like just don't even think about eating it. Just don't even let it be an option. Sometimes the continental breakfast will have some eggs or some bacon or some sausage or something like that, which is fine. Sometimes what I do is if there isn't anything other than icky continental breakfast, then I just go to the local Starbucks and I just order egg bites. Like that's a nice something to have.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
just order the egg bites. And I mean, these aren't the bestest of the best, but when you're on a trip, it's better than crap food, right? So
Right.
yeah, so it's just a nice stopgap measure and it will fill you up and keep you going. And then I always take nuts with me when I'm traveling in case lunch is late or whatever. Just
You
have
do always have nuts with you. You have them at work too all the time.
I know, I do. I always have nuts just because they're a nice stopgap measure.
Yeah.
When you're doing lunches and dinners, so you're going to be an all inclusive, so you're pretty much taken care of there. You can just make some really good choices. For we have a lot of patients who, they're on the road or whatever,
Hmm.
and they end up in fast food restaurants. And so my advice would be to do the best job you can to avoid stopping at fast food restaurants. If you're in a car and you can take a cooler with you and you can
Yep.
pack some
Pack that
food,
cooler.
that would be the bestest situation. And then, you can always put more ice in your cooler and go to a grocery store and get real grocery store food and eat that instead of stopping by the fast food restaurants. I mean, that food is just so bad for you. It's just toxic.
Yep. I
So,
have done that before with the cooler, and that was like a really smart move.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. So, and then, if you're like, let's say you're on some sort of tour or something, and this is where the brain will say, oh, like you don't have a choice. Your brain will go, you don't have any choice about what to eat. Or like you're at a conference and the food is just being served to you. You would be surprised at how much choice you have.
Well, a lot
Because,
of our patients say, like, if they're going to, like, let's say they're going to help their family out or they're going to visit their family,
mhm,
they oftentimes say, well, I don't really have a choice because I got to eat what they're eating.
yeah,
I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, right? I'm at my parents' house or I'm at
yeah,
my aunt and uncle's house or something. And so I do feel like they feel trapped in the
yeah.
way that they don't have a choice. So what is
Like
your
they
suggestion?
Well, my suggestion is to talk to them ahead of time and let them know that you're trying to eat really well and you're trying to avoid eating toxic foods, and that you've discovered that stuff like pancakes and bread and pasta and all that actually is really, really bad for you, and you want to be a healthy person, and offer to do some cooking there. Offer to make them some awesome recipes that you've discovered
Oh,
since
that's
you've
a
been
good idea.
working at trying to eat really good, wholesome, healthy food. You can do
Mhm.
that, and then you're not being a burden, because that's what a lot of people are saying. They're like, "Well, I don't want to be a burden.
Right.
I'm at somebody else's house." And it's not a burden if you let them know ahead of time. Like, don't be making me a pancake breakfast.
Yeah.
I don't really want to eat that kind of food. It doesn't, I don't feel good when I eat that. So, um, really, you have the ultimate control over everything that you
Right.
put in your mouth. And so, um, one of the things that we talk about a lot in Journey Beyond Weight Loss is setting boundaries with other people and learning how to do that, how to live your truth. And your truth is, I want to be a healthy, vibrant person, and how to make sure that you get your needs met without feeling guilty. That's
Right.
one of the things that we work a lot on in Journey Beyond Weight Loss. So for those, we just had a enrollment opening, and we're closed now. But that's something that you might want to think about, if you do feel obligated when you're with friends and relatives, staying at their homes. We can help you with that.
Yes,
So
I've been using so much of the material and the tips and,
yeah,
all of the information this last
yeah,
week
yeah,
that I learned in Journey Beyond Weight Loss. Like, it's all starting to come together for me, and
yeah.
my mind has been freed.
Yay, that's awesome. I love that. Okay, so, is there anything else, Marshall? I'll just do a little quick summary of what we talked about, and,
I
do you
just
have
think, like, the information, the most important information I think I've gleaned from you, like, well, in this discussion, but just with the vacation eating is, have a plan.
Mhm.
Like, be just like prepping food for the week.
Yeah,
You're going to prep your mind for
exactly.
what you're going to do, and like do some research and find out,
Yeah,
like ahead of time. Talk to your family, and tell them kind of where you're at and what you're doing,
mhm.
um, and that you have some healthy boundaries. And so
Mm,
I think that's really good information. I'm going to use that for my
yeah.
trip.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up, prep your mind, because,
Hmm.
so many people go into their vacations with this vacay mindset, and so
Hmm.
you wanna do that, that's your choice. I mean, that's fine if you wanna do that, but you do have to recognize that it's gonna be a little bit more challenging to get yourself back on track when you get home. That's
Yeah,
all.
and if it does happen, you can just all you have to do is to get back on track really quickly is just to talk to yourself very nicely,
Mhm.
and just keep on going. Like, you just
Yeah.
never give up. Like, that's what
Never
I do
ever.
is no matter what happens, even if it lasts for a while, like if I get off track, I just never give up.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. You can't fail unless you quit.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So, just in summary, then, make sure you have your mind prepped so that you know whether you're going to just go ahead and, do your all out splurge, or whether you're going to eat pretty well for most of the trip, or are you going to allow yourself some splurge days or whatever. If you're going to stay with family or friends, let them know ahead of time that you want to eat really well. And don't say, I'm on a special diet. Say, I just really am working at eating normal, healthy food. And so, and I would love to make some of my cool recipes for you, and that kind of thing. I mean, they'll really appreciate that. If you're going on a plane, you want to plan ahead in advance so that you're not starving on the plane, especially if it's a long plane trip. Take some protein bars and some nuts with you. Maybe grab a salad at the airport to carry on the plane with you. Once you get behind security, you can do that. If you're traveling by car, take a cooler with you. Try to stay out of fast food restaurants to the best of your ability. That will be very, very helpful, just to stay out. And then if you're at a hotel that's got a continental breakfast, check ahead of time to see what they have in their continental breakfast. If they've got eggs and sausage and bacon, you're good to go. If they don't, just get to the local Starbucks and get some egg bites, or go to a grocery store and get some decent food. Don't eat the crap continental breakfast. That's just,
You
ugh.
always have a choice.
You do. You always have a choice. And watch your brain. Notice how your brain responds to this whole
Yeah.
challenge with vacations. Does your brain go, oh, this is too hard. You're not going to be able to do this? Or does your brain say, yeah, we're up for the challenge? Or does your brain say, oh, like it's vacay, we're going to go? Or does your brain say, hey, you know what? We can have vacation and we can also nourish our bodies really well while we're doing some new different things.
Yep,
You can,
that's the mindset I want.
yeah. And be super careful with alcohol. Be very careful with alcohol.
Hmm.
It's really easy to overindulge when you're on vacation with
Yep.
alcohol. So, yeah. Yeah. So
All
cool.
right.
All right, you guys. I hope that all of our podcast listeners are doing well wherever you are in the world, and I hope you're starting to be able to plan some fun things.
Yeah.
Make sure you get your vaccine if you haven't done that yet. It's time. They're everywhere now. You can get vaccines, and we will see you next week with another awesome podcast episode.
Yeah.
Take
Bye,
care.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Hey, if you really want to lose weight and keep it off for good, your next step is to sign up for Dr. Angela's free weight loss course, where you're going to learn everything you need to get started on your weight loss journey the right way. Just head over to journeybeyondweightloss.com/free course to sign up. Also, it would be awesome if you could take a few moments and write a review on iTunes. Thanks, and we'll see you in Journey Beyond Weight Loss.